Hey Internet, I'm Chaz.
Hi, I'm Dan. This is Wine is Serious Business, episode 230. We're here on site at J. Wrigley Vineyards today with John and Jody Wrigley, fairly newer winery, and this is something that we haven't done too much, is really getting outside of our boundaries, trying some new stuff and getting it on the show. So thanks to our friend Carl, who set us up with this appointment, introduced us to some nice people, some cool wines, and as you can see, man, a killer location. So why don't you tell us a little more about yourselves and what brought you to this part of the valley?
Well, we're sitting here at about 720 feet elevation right now, so we have a commanding view of the valley behind us. It was very important for us to find a property that had a beautiful view, so that it was very scenic, picturesque, but also the slopes are critical to a vineyard and its success because of the air movement and the drainage that you get from the slopes. So we found this piece of property in 2006, planted our first vines in 2008, and are now enjoying some of the first vintages from our property.
That's awesome.
What was the first vintage with your estate fruit?
2011.
All right.
That's our first estate harvest.
Nice. So give the vines a real good chance to set in too. That's cool.
Yeah, I've heard of people pulling as early as like 3 years. You guys just waited a little longer?
Well, in third leaf, you get a small crop, and so that was our 2011.
Oh, okay.
And then in 2012 would have been what you would consider our first big harvest.
Nice. Well, good year to have.
But it was
good year to have a good
exciting.
crop
Yeah.
too. That's cool.
Yeah.
So the first wine we're going to talk about today is the Riesling. So I'll just go ahead and pour that.
So this is our 2013 Riesling, and that's a state fruit. So we 70 case production. We only have just an acre of Riesling.
And it's cool to hear a new vineyard that went in. Like you decided to take up some really valuable space, right? Like the dollar trade-off's not there, right? You make more money if you put Pinot Noir in there,
right?
But you put in Riesling instead. And we talked about this a little earlier, but let's say it again. Like why would you take up vineyard space for Riesling?
Well, it has to be for reasons other than economic, because it costs the same to farm it, whether it's Pinot Noir or Riesling. And so my own heritage is I've got some Swiss and German relatives, particularly my grandparents, no longer with us. And so we planted a block of Riesling kind of in honor of them, and that was the wine that they drank, and so
very cool.
That's awesome.
So this is May's block.
May's block, my grandma. So
cheers.
Fantastic, yeah.
Cheers to her.
And I'm Polish, so I'm not sure what we're gonna do.
Figure it out.
Yeah, what wine do the Poles drink?
I'm not sure. I better look that up.
Pinot Gris, I think they call it Tokay.
Oh,
But on the nose, sort of like lighter, almost, and maybe it lends to like there's a bit of wind going on out here, but.
Sure.
Like a white pear, maybe a little bit of cantaloupe.
oh man, yeah, you're on. Yeah.
Smells really good. I liked this when we pre-tasted everything in the tasting room, and just the nose on this really stuck out to me. It's really delicious. Smells great.
Yeah, it's got good actual viscosity. So
Yeah, leading into the way it tastes, like I did already just take a big taste of it. I absolutely love the weight of this wine. Like it's, I think the flavor, there's not much exuberance. Like there's nothing really jumping forward at you as far as flavor, but it's all very balanced, and the body lends to that. I don't know. It's interesting.
One thing that's
very good Riesling.
In our area, well, and in most areas in Oregon, sometimes you have to harvest at a time that you prefer not to.
Yeah, sure.
But because of marauding birds or impending rain, things of that nature, it really is one of those things of 100% of something's better than 80% of nothing.
Yeah.
So we harvested this probably a week earlier than we would have liked, and as a result, the wine is a little bit more acidic and a little drier. But it's beautiful. It's also then another style that we can enjoy, and it pairs beautifully with some different foods.
And I think the aromatics are really still intact. Yeah, like those that light pear scent, and I'm getting some like white floral stuff.
Yeah,
that's really great. And I think in a lot of dry Rieslings, especially young, maybe you don't get like the full complexity of flavor that's like yet to come as they evolve. But the nose is usually like kind of right out in front, and this is showing that nicely, I think.
Yeah, it's delicious.
This is fantastic with Thai food, so spicy foods, really, really good. And
that
pork dishes, yeah.
All right, so the second one we're going to talk about, yeah.
Okay, so this is our 2012 Proposal Block Pinot Noir, estate grown.
Okay.
There you go.
You should know
Another cool story behind the name on this wine.
So we actually met in Oregon wine country over Labor Day weekend. And John was looking for vineyard property and I was just drinking. So love
That's
the wines.
fortuitous. That's great. Yeah.
And so we had our first kiss on this property less than 24 hours after we met.
Nice.
And then he proposed to me at the top.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Not the same trip.
Not the same trip. Well, it wasn't that long after. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I quit my corporate job to raise our family and.
Sure. Were you in Portland before then?
No.
Or would you,
No, I lived in Arizona. At the time.
Wow. Yeah. Where'd you move here from?
Denver.
Okay. Nice.
Okay. Awesome.
So this is just a little cooler climate for me.
But we were both raised in the Northwest, so.
Okay.
So we named our Pinot Noir block the Proposal Block.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good name. Yeah.
Hopefully more proposals happen here in the future. Right?
Well, we just started doing weddings.
Perfect.
Weddings up here,
As
and
you should with this property, yeah.
it really so I have always wanted to do it just because of we have such love for the property and what a great way to start your life. So
Yeah,
Totally.
totally.
Yeah. Well, the
So go ahead.
nose on this is absolutely awesome. It smells wonderful. Like we had tasted your Max Cuvée while we were in the tasting room, and while that was more definitely more fruit based, this is definitely lending into like more darker fruits. But there's like a sense of earth or like almost like dark soil
The clone.
that you can kind of smell inside the nose, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's some really great violet scents on this that I got a lot of in 2010, but there's a really good contrast with 2010 here, where 2010 was a little more spicy and like peppery, kind of like zip to it, and this does have like more of a sense of richness, but the violets are still there. And I'm curious if you think if any of that's a character of the McMinnville AVA. This is an AVA that Chaz and I really don't understand that well. We drink some wine from it here and there, but I really don't have a feel for what identifies it.
It's been prevalent in the wines that I've made to this point, and granted limited experience of about 4 vintages, that there is a noticeable floral perfume with the Pinot Noirs, and that can fade a bit with time, but it's very prevalent.
Sure.
It's there. And so it's something that I think is very much an asset to the wine. So many people, essentially, when you take a deep breath of the wine, you're tasting it in essence already.
Yeah.
And it's just they're gorgeous wines from this particular area. And in the 2012, most people in Oregon will have very nice wines because the growing conditions were just perfect.
Not to mention, look at the color there. It's pretty gorgeous.
yeah.
So-
No, it's dark.
Yeah.
And that is probably representative of some of the most optimum conditions that we could have here. And considering that was our 4th leaf, our 4th year of age on our vines, we were exceptionally pleased with the quality of it.
And it turned out some really, the fruit flavors are very vibrant and easy to understand up front. Like there's like good like sort of blackberry juice and cherry juice, right? But the tannic structure and the acid are well balanced and very gentle. Like the approach of the tannins here is what sets this apart from maybe some other wines. That it's just a very, very gentle approach. Really nice.
That part probably
they're present, but they're gentle, right? Like it's
right, but that comes from careful winemaking because in this area, because of our influence from the Van Duzer corridor and the afternoon winds, we can get wines that are overly tannic. And so if you're making wines where you're allowing excess heat through the fermentation or use of excessive amount of enzymes or things like that, then you very easily can get a wine that's going to take many years before it's approachable.
Wow. Yeah, and this is not that. This is drinking good sort of right off the bat. I like it.
Yeah, and I feel like a good sense of ageability here. I don't really have a sense of range, but the way that the tannins are gentle but still full, I feel like this will have structure and like the they don't really eclipse the flavors. I'd be excited to try this over the course of a few years for sure, maybe more. So
Yeah.
You'd hope that polish, like the polish of the tannins, holds throughout its its life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So where'd you guys? What kind of wines did you guys get into when you first like really started to fall in love with wines? What were the wines that really grabbed you first?
Well, Jody was a Zinfandel drinker.
Zinfandel, Chardonnay.
Sure.
And I was primarily the Bordeaux varietals based out of California. Loved it.
There we go. We can drink.
Merlot.
We can drink together.
And so when I started looking for property up here, my tastes and palate trended towards the bigger Pinot Noirs because that's what it was accustomed to.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I settled in this particular area and loved the wines coming from some of the other wineries in this area. And later found out that some of the other wineries throughout the state where I had wine from and loved their wines were actually purchasing fruit from out of this AVA
very
and
cool.
blending.
Yeah.
And so that was a nice confirmation that this was where we wanted to go. And as a result, it gives us the flexibility if we ever want to do something like one of those big, massive, reserve 15, 20-year type wines. We can handle that. We can do that.
Yeah.
But all of our wines aren't going to be that way, and we can tailor them to be a little more approachable earlier.
Right.
And I really love just real dry white wines. So our Pinot Gris is very dry, crisp style.
Definitely.
Our Riesling's got the nice dryness to it, and love them. So
Yes.
This is my favorite wine this year. Just
Yeah. No, that's
totally.
it's delicious.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, and we're very much foodies as well.
Oh,
so if the wine doesn't
goes hand
pair
in
well,
hand,
yeah,
yeah.
you have to.
It really does.
Wine is food, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's another course.
Yeah.
And
and
it's
last.
magnificent. It's,
Yes, our first
There's
and
some
last.
truth. That's good. That's good.
So, and then the last wine that we're going to have is one that's quite unique. It's really kind of an experiment as we perhaps
Welcome.
consider a sparkling program. So we make a
Go.
100% based Pinot Noir that's made in a style that would be similar to a sparkling base wine. And so every year it has a little bit different quantity of residual sugar because it's highly reflective of the growing conditions for that year.
Yeah.
So in very warm years, we stop the fermentation a little earlier so that we don't get too much alcohol in the wine.
Right.
If all the sugar gets consumed, then you don't have the ability for the sugar to mask the amount of alcohol that's in it.
Totally.
And then the wine tastes hot and is really not very pleasant to drink. So in 2013, a little earlier harvest than normal, and so it really was a year that there's not quite as much sugar in it as we had in 2012. And it's kind of nice because it really has allowed the perfume of the wine to show through, and there's some beautiful, beautiful, bright fruit notes in it. The cherries and strawberries and
Strawberries, yeah, strongly.
Oh man.
Yeah, and definitely it is our summer wedding wine. People just love it.
When we pre-tasted these, my nose was a little plugged up.
Yeah.
Like I cleared it out before we started the
Good.
show. So like everything smells twice as good now as it did 20 minutes ago, and I'm really feeling
packaging,
this. Yeah.
So,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so some of your viewers might be of the 80s generation, which was very much gray and pink. So I thought this was appropriate.
There it is. Yeah.
So I love it. It reminds me of good times.
Well, I mentioned on this before when the pre-tasting was like, this maybe with bubbles
Yeah.
would smell and taste
So good.
absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's all it's sort of
Yeah.
almost missing. But I wouldn't even say that because as a standalone wine, it is absolutely delicious. I mean,
Strawberries, watermelon, like a little. I'm getting like a little like creamy component too,
Absolutely,
right? Like just
yeah.
real. You're totally dead on. Like good rosé champagne. Like that suggestion is there.
yeah.
Nice.
And an interesting thing you said too that you add the color with a little Pinot Noir afterward, right?
Well, right, because the way it's, we whole cluster press it. This is not wine that's made as an afterthought to salvage some runoff of processing. It's a designated fruit specifically for that. Goes into the press, whole cluster press it right into a gassed tank.
Into a white wine, right?
Right,
Initially.
and then it's fermented and it comes out essentially colorless.
Yeah.
And from that point, then we take finished Pinot Noir that's gone through ML and add back until we see the color that we're comfortable with.
Giving you some of the mouthfeel too.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a little modified from some of the Pinot Noir Blancs that you see, but essentially made the same way. And I think you probably agree with me on this, that 2013 is probably going to be a killer year for Rosé and Pinot Noir Blancs.
Well, the ones I've already tasted so far.
Because a lot of people had to bring wine in a little early, and a lot of people were dealing with, fruit that didn't get to sit as long as they wanted it to. And while that's not so great, if you want to make a big, strong Pinot Noir, you can still get great aromatics, great flavor, and a lot of great things that Pinot Noir has to offer from wines in this style. And I think this does a great job of really bringing that to the glass. Yeah,
I agree. I did.
Good.
Definitely more substantial rosé, and I like the small touch of RS that's on this. Like I think it blends really well with the amount of acid there is. They pair really nicely.
I know some of you don't like that, but Chaz and I we're on board.
It's smoking. It's good. Yeah,
it really is actually our most popular wine. We sell out within a couple months of releasing it, and we make about 150 cases of it. So it's
I can easily see that.
Gone by the 4th of July. But
fantastic.
So come see us if you want some.
Well, I mean, obviously it's a beautiful site, right? You should come.
Oh yes,
here,
go ahead. When's your tasting room
open?
open?
It's a destination worth finding.
Yeah,
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
11 to 4.
11 to 4. And so we're not the end of the world, but you can see it from here.
Yeah.
And we'll give this public service announcement too. Yeah. Don't take Gopher Hill.
Don't take Gopher Valley.
Come
take into
Gopher
Sheridan
Valley
and take Cherry Hill Road all the way to the top.
Road,
Yep, it's just a turn. You take the first exit into Sheridan, the first right. It's right there.
Yeah, and
Google Maps will lead you astray.
And you have to drive past about 500,000 Christmas trees to get here.
It's a cool drive though, coming up
very
here.
Cool.
We're talking about that. Why'd you put all the trees in?
They were here.
Oh, they were here when you got it.
Yes,
Okay.
so we lease them out.
Okay, but you didn't tear them out to put vines in.
No, this area was reforested timber, so we had to clear all this. Cleared 15 acres, and we did that ourselves. And
That's some work.
That's a project,
Yeah. So it was 2 years of work to get the ground ready to go, and similarly with our tasting room, Jody and myself and her dad have done the majority of the work, other than the
great little tasting room.
Yeah. The concrete we didn't. That's a young man's sport. We didn't do that.
No, you need special equipment for that. Absolutely.
But.
And I saw on the website anyway that you picked the vineyard sites, the part of the property for vineyards that had the best aspect.
Right.
You thought, and their website's kind of nice. Got a little write up about what they think's important in vineyard aspect and what that benefits from. With some other people you've heard talk about the Van Duzer corridor. I wanted to highlight that these guys benefit from that here too.
Absolutely.
The cooling winds in the evening or in the late afternoon. So when you're getting like the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock heat in other parts of the valley, it's moderated here.
Right.
But you still get lots of warmth in the morning. And talking about elevation too, man, it feels like you're above the world up here, but you're not all that high, right? Like relatively?
No, we're 720 feet, and so it's getting to the point where there are some AVAs, I think, that limit 750 feet as to be within the AVA, you have to be under that.
Really? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, and below 250 feet is you're outside of the AVA as well. So there's elevation bands.
I'm learning today. Yeah.
So really, when you look at a piece of property, there's a small percent that's really suitable for grapes. If it's within those elevation bands, east or south-facing slopes, so that eliminates a huge percent of most land areas. So we have 200 acres here, but of the land that's suitable for grapes, it's not too steep or the wrong exposure. We have about 90 acres that are suitable for grapes.
Wow.
Excellent.
So that generally is a high percentage.
All right. Yeah, more cool information, I guess. Good to know.
Yeah, and a great show.
Yes, I'm feeling
cool
really good about this. Yeah, great view.
You.
We're getting out of here just before the rain comes in.
I believe it's on its way.
We're going to wrap up as we always do. One of you has to ask a question of the audience. Hopefully we'll get a comment or two back. Anything you're curious about, people who watch videos about wine in Oregon?
Or wine geeks in general.
Yeah.
That's the people that will find this show. So
Well, I'm most interested
Or sports,
in
even.
food and wine pairings.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I would be interested in, well, each of the wines actually, the Riesling, the Pinot Noir, and Rosé with a little RS, what your favorite food pairings are.
There you go. Give us a pairing for any of those.
I would love it. I
Yes.
would love it.
Maybe it could show up in the tasting room
It
too if it
absolutely
goes
would.
well.
We do
yeah.
gourmet lunches at the tasting room, so it's always fun to take suggestions from people who drink our wines, and then
Cool.
we'll make their
awesome.
recipes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you.
We had a good
Yeah,
time.
thanks.
Yeah,
We'll
thanks
see you
for
guys
having
next week.
Bye, guys.